Thank you very much, Sharks. Welcome back. It is Game 4, G2 Esports versus Infinity. We're already into the thick of picks and bans, and for right now, things are remaining standard. Things are remaining the same. Now, luxury for Infinity is that they don't have to ban Urgot because they can first pick it. But I still get scared. I still have the fear in my heart. Is this just going to be the wonder show? That feels like the one thing that Infinity Esports cannot let happen.
The guy has had a... Ooh, the Aatrox ban. That does leave the Olaf open. Now G2, they should be forced to ban away the... Oh, they're going to leave it open.
They say do it. Do it, you won't.
Give us Olaf. That's what they're challenging.
They say, look, you want to take the Urgot? We have a counter pick ready. It's not the same. Relic, so much pressure now on this guy or Kotopaku, whoever takes this champion to make the most of it, because Perks' Rise is available. They've given the Alistair open. Do you have to just take the Olaf if you're Solid Snake? But if you do, you're running right into a Talia from Jankos.
Okay, so this has been a very different draft to what we've commonly seen. Yes, the Rise has been banned in every single game, but we already know that Kotopaku can play the Casio. He's more than happy to pick that matchup, and we know that it does pretty well into the Rise as well. Infinity are even going to take away the Kai'Sa. This draft is shaping up very differently, and it just feels like Infinity trying to take a lot away. I would love to see an Olaf lock in. You take it away from Jankos. Like, this is a G2 draft in the hands of Infinity.
Oh. Okay, this makes sense on the opposite side for G2. Locking in a safe bottom lane for Kjarnan and Wadid. Varus, interestingly, falling off the priority scale in these series. And Jhin potentially a little bit vulnerable to the Olaf dives in the future. But Vedius, that's a lot of pressure on Solid Snake now, because really when we think about the Gragas game where he was successful and the Skarner game where he was successful, it was the setups he was busting out. And this is so much more about him just dominating in the early game.
Yeah, it's, whew. But this is kind of what we want to see, because for Solid Snake, he is typically a proactive early game jungler. You think back to his game 1, where he was hard camping that bot lane, really making things difficult for Kjarnan and Wadid during the laning phase. And then you think back to his Xin Zhao as well, where he was trying to be proactive on the map, his Skarner as well. Oh, wow, and they picked
They banned the Camille and the Lee Sin, and they take the Camille. But Morgana and Braum have been banned, so what do Infinity take here?
But I mean, whoa, we got to talk about the fact that G2 picked Talia into Olaf. This is not a good matchup for the Talia, and honestly, it's just a bit disrespectful, because we know that Solid Snake is willing to match Jankos. We've seen it multiple times, and I just feel that...
Ooh. All right, well, I'm excited about this. You want to go out with some gems. Go out shining, you know? And I respect that from Arce. He's going to bust out a new pick here, go toe-to-toe with the Alistair, and maybe use that team fighting ulti to good effect. Because imagine Taric and Olaf together running at the face of that Talia, that weak point you talked about.
Oh, and they're going to lock in the Reliant for Kotopaku as well. All right, you don't talk about hovers. Stop it. Stop getting excited.
They keep hovering Pike, man. It gets me going every time. But we'll wait. We'll see what the composition is, what the answer is for G2. They're taking their time on this last pick. We'll see if they opt for safety or something a little bit more spicy.
Remember, the Rise could go top.
It is true. It is an option. That could be the counter pick to the Urgot.
It would be a lot of AP damage, though, on the side of G2. Wow.
It's AP versus AD.
So I'm really not a fan of this draft from the side of G2. It is very squishy. You're very reliant on Perks getting ahead. Jankos is going to have to be so proactive in the early game, and like Infinity just, they can match it. Urgot is extremely strong. It's a lane that you can look to play around in the early game. Very little mobility on the side of the Rise. You also have a strong 2v2 with Solid Snake and Kotopaku. I think Infinity have a really good draft here. Like they...
Vedius, all right, you like the Infinity one.
Yeah.
But before we talk about Infinity, I do want to hit that G2 Esports, because you're like, I don't like what's going on, but if they're going to win with it, tell me what they have to do.
Well, I mean, you have to get Perks ahead on the LeBlanc. You need this guy to have an advantage, because in terms of the late game, it is so heavily in the favor of Infinity. Their team fighting is so strong. Irelia, Urgot, Kai'Sa, Taric as well. Like, the ability to just run down onto the backline too. Like, when Kai'Sa ults in, what does she have to be afraid of? She has the Taric stun that's sitting on top of her.
I forgot about that combo.
Yeah,
I was thinking about the Olaf. I forgot about that combo.
Like, Olaf runs in, and then you have a Kai'Sa follow up immediately. Both of them have a Taric ultimate on top of them. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I really don't like this draft from G2. Like, Infinity should feel really confident coming into this.
But you've set the stakes, Vedius. You set them well, because now we know where to look in the early game. It's about early game advantages. It's about G2 snowballing a lead. And it gets scary because everyone on the top side of the map for G2 is magic damage. Urgot gets a little bit of MR, he becomes this unkillable monster.
So I will say that I think that for the first time in this series, Hyun and Wadid have a winning pushing bot lane with the Jhin Alistar. They already showcased against Zygnot and Snowflower that when they get their hands on the Jhin, they can generate a lot of pressure. So I think having this comfort bot lane is good for G2, but putting all this pressure on Perkz, we heard it from the analyst desk, he didn't have the best game 3. His impact throughout this series has not been amazing. We think back to game 1 where he flashed into a wall, game 2 where he brought out the Malzahar while he was like, he had a pretty solid performance on the Malzahar, I will give him that. But like, we haven't seen him be carry Perkz so far in this series. It has been the Wonder Show and honestly the Hyanan Show in these late game fights. And now Wonder's on Rise, a champion that I do not associate with this player at all. I'm just looking at Infinity, I'm like, Infinity are really happy with this draft. Kotopako's been playing really well this series. Solid Snake is on a jungler that's even stronger in terms of the early skirmishing. The bot lane is probably going to struggle in terms of the 2 versus 2, but they don't need to play around bot lane, just let them farm.
And I think, Vedius, the interesting thing here is that we've seen Wonder be so successful across the series, so incredibly successful. And the question for any G2 fan watching right now is, can he do it again? Because across all 3 of the first games, Wonder was pretty fantastic on an individual level and really just kind of outplayed the opposition. Is he going to have a similar effect here on Rise in the early game?
Well, I mean, in the early game, he'll just farm. I mean, I think it's a pretty safe matchup. Rise typically lanes well into anyone because his lane clear is pretty good and his ability to trade is pretty good, but you can see that Wonder has been the big carry of the day. His damage per minute is very solid, but the gold difference at 15 is the insane part. The fact that he's built such massive lane leads just goes to show how big of a carry top lane he really is.
Kotopako, though, going once in. Perkz
could die.
The thing you have to respect is level 2 from Aurelia. She has her passive fully stacked, so she can keep it up. Things look good, but Perkz goes in right as it falls off.
I didn't realize the Q is up from Kotopako the moment he has his passive fully stacked. All right, Perkz got level 2, though, so that kill threat goes down a lot.
Ooh, missed the reset. Perkz is now going to go in on that. Stun comes out.
All right, so Perkz is fine. We got a little hyphy there. We need to calm down.
I'm sorry. Aurelia level 2 is like, I've seen so many people die to Aurelia level 2 in professional play that I'm like always ready at a moment's notice, Betty, to start shouting. Not going to be necessary here. And interestingly enough, we expected Yarn and Wadid to win out on the early push, for now, at least in the early levels.
I mean, it's probably fine, right? Because I don't exactly remember who started where, and I'm going to assume that Hyanan started by giving a blue to his jungler, which is why they're probably just a little bit behind in terms of the early levels.
He did.
Yeah, so it's just because the bot lane of Infinity got to lane first, that's why they have that push. Meanwhile, the Rise is getting pushed in, like you just kind of expect that against Urgot these days. He just pushes in pretty much all the matchups. But in terms of how this early game is going to go, again, the focus kind of falls towards G2. It's on them to find these early leads. Now that doesn't mean that within the first 5 minutes of the game, they have to have like 8 kills, right? That's not what I mean. When I talk about early game leads, like LeBlanc is a really good example of once you've got Luden's Echo, that is when you should be trying to get a couple kills. That is, to me, the kind of benchmark where I say, okay, this is the kind of point in the game. And usually you complete it about 11 to 12 minutes into the game. So if you get that item early, that's great. But once you have it, that's when I want to see you actually being proactive on the map, roaming around, trying to force plays, etc., etc. And I don't know, I just feel like Aurelia is a fine matchup into the LeBlanc, largely because of the damage reduction and because of how much mobility you have and the ability to be aggressive. I think that Olaf plus Aurelia is also a really scary duo. I don't know. I've criticized the G2 draft a lot. Let's see how things play out right now.
We can wait and watch it unfold. For now, Perkz seems to be doing fine. He's missed a few CS in this laning phase. He's, you're kind of constantly playing on the edge in this matchup because you both have kill pressure on each other, and it just feels like either one is waiting for a misstep. And in the meantime, we check in on the rest of the lanes. Wonder not pulling ahead quite as quickly as he may have in the previous matchups. Not quite as comfortable, you imagine, in this matchup as he is against the Urgot Aatrox, which he's played a million times. And now, there's a surprise Olaf on the top side of the map.
Probably not going to get much, because I wouldn't be surprised if Wonder backs now to buy Tia, and then goes, TP's back in. Yeah, that's what I thought. So,
but if he TP's on the minion, Solid Snake's going to wait. It feels like he's going to commit.
That's a good shout, actually. Because if he does TP onto that minion...
Oh, that's why Relic's backing off.
Okay.
Tower. Jankos is here, though. We could see the 2v2 very early on, Vedius.
I don't think we will. Like, Ryze, you don't really want to gank for a Ryze because he just wants to farm. Okay.
Oh, but you do want to gank for the Rise. Vedius leaping in. Wonder now trying to make it out to safety. Flash burned.
Damn.
Forced out. Solid Snake ready to play. Finger on the trigger for both Relic and Solid Snake.
He just flashed in and goes for the hyper-aggressive E there on Relic. He does land the flip back, but they aren't quite able to get the kill down onto Wonder. You're laughing at my use of the word flip back.
I'm laughing because I know it means you don't know if it's the E or the W.
It was the E. It was the E.
The flip back was used well. Now, continuing forward, Kotopako, though, not getting the beneficial end of these trades, and Wadid now roaming into the mid lane to snag a cannon creep. You gotta respect that. Perks, though, could be in a bit of a tough spot. Level 6 comes in, trying to burn down Kotopako, not even worried about the pull-off. Ignite still ticking. First blood for Perks. They were all sitting there. That was a gentleman's agreement. Nobody was hitting anybody.
Drafting gods, G2 knew all along. Perks the carry. All right, so he finds a solo kill into Kotopako. This is huge. We said it again. G2 need to find an early game lead. Getting a solo kill is a great way to get an early game lead. So really impressed there from Perks. Is able to shut it down, and now G2 may look for a dive.
Indeed waiting. Tark's off to the side, but Jankos is here as well. Jankos only level 4.
Damage.
Marcia there. Spawns with Ryu. May buy a bit of time. TP being burned. Ryu so incredibly low. 4 shot is there. TP not completed. This means they're just going to continue on the dive. I think he had to use it there. 4 shot goes in. Ryu going to flash out to safety. Jankos going to try to burn him out. He's running as fast as he can. Stun up for Jankos. Good damage back. Flash and the heal over the wall to live. Wadid taking so much in exchange. Not going to be enough. 4 shot there for Hjarnan just to stop them from making any more plays, but disaster averted from the side of Infinity.
But a lot of action happening early on, and now again in the mid
connects, misses the ult, though.
Kotopako isn't quite able to land it. Oh, but Solid Snake has found Jankos.
Level 6 to level 4. Jankos just dies.
Easy pickup there for Solid Snake. He's able to punish the fact that Jankos has no flash. Ace of Predator replay going to be brought to you in the middle lane as Perks goes for that solo kill down on a Kotopako. Gets to level 6, is able to proc the electrocute as well. Just basically lands the W into ult. Very easy combo from the LeBlanc. And we'll shut him down.
Perks building up a substantial CS lead. Wonder doing what he can to stay even with the Urgon on the top side. A much more even matchup this time around, but just an explosive game already, Vedius.
Yeah, exactly that. Very exciting. I'm already having a lot of fun. You know, we criticize the G2 draft, but it's definitely resulting in a lot of early game action. And so far, the LeBlanc is sitting on 1 kill, but Jankos very far behind on this Talia. He tried to make the bot lane dive happen. They couldn't quite pull it off. It was actually G2 who ended up coming out short in terms of the summoner spell trade. Look, Wadid has no summoners, Hjarnan has no heal, Jankos lost his flash, and all it cost Renu was his flash. So they end up coming out onto, oh, of course, Arce did use his heal as well, but he has the spell book, so he's now sitting on an ignite. So that is fair. It was a 2 for 3 for summoner spell trade. Now Wonder in trouble.
Wonder running for his life. There's the ulti from the Urgot, though. Feels like it's a little bit early, forcing out the Realm Warp. Wonder now on the retreat. A lot of pressure here on the top side. No mana for the Rise and no TP, which means Jankos may have to commit here to stop anything from going down. Relic, though, don't know if he's confident enough to go for the push.
Really like these ganks from Solid Snake, though, up towards the top side of the map. He's really trying to help Relic out. And again, we talked a lot about how Wonder's been the big carry of this series, and so they're trying to shut him down. Infinity really just shifting their priorities rather than focusing towards the bot of the mid lane. Like, okay, we've camped bot, we've camped Perks, now it's time to camp Wonder and see how he handles the pressure.
1 camp at a time. Perks, though, doing much better in this matchup in the mid lane. Getting that kill early on sets him up with the Lost Chapter. Still a little bit of ways off the Luden. Kind of that power spike you mentioned is a big point to watch out for. But playing much more confidently with a kill under his belt. 64 CS for Kotopako, going up against Perks' 79.
Things still looking pretty good for both sides. Kotopako all in.
Stun, chain CC locked together. The Ignite taken down on Perks. Kotopako, though, may have overstayed. Jankos just there to dissuade the play, but good little bit of aggression.
Out. That was a good play there from Kotopako. Bit of an all-in and bot.
New ulti now going to be burned. They want to turn this one if they're going to go for it. 1 stack on Hjarnan means you can re-engage. They're focusing on Wadid for now, but getting that Tark ultimate is crucial. Jankos on the way down. He's going to run face first to that Olaf. Has caught up in experience, though.
Solid Snake been investing in a couple more ganks, which has allowed Jankos to farm through the jungle. But Reactionary ultimate there from Arce. The cooldown is pretty long at early levels.
Hex Flash.
Hex Flash.
Headbutt pull. Jankos is here. Flash out. Chain CC will not connect.
Both junglers getting heavily involved in this early game. Arce, good flash there to avoid potentially losing his life. We'll keep this bot lane pretty even for the time being. I say that Hyanan sitting at a pretty healthy CS lead with the Jhin. We did talk about in the draft that it's kind of the first time this series that he's had a winning matchup and hasn't forced to deal with some of the really aggressive stuff that both Arce and Renu have been bringing out.
Is absolutely the case. Solid stake, though. Gonna catch. Perks is there. Stun does connect. Perks is gonna dash over the wall, however.
No flash.
Over. No hesitation. Perks is immediately gonna get cut down, but the heal is there to back him up. Unstoppable, but burning, slowly ticking. Hjarnan with the 4-shot. Where's it gonna go? Doesn't need it. Perks takes it in the end. Corrupting Potion, red buff even, to bring it home.
I like the confidence there from Solid Snake. It looked like he was doing a lot of damage, but a really good heal from Hjarnan combined with the passive of LeBlanc is what kept him alive. Now Kotopako.
Perks is the tasty bait right now. Kotopako does not follow up, though. Good call as Jankos is waiting there to punish.
Jankos should stick around and help him clear out this wave so that Perks can go back to base. There we go.
Connects. Cooldown's all burnt. Kotopako sidesteps, but not willing to commit onto Jankos. Has the flash available and is just doing his due diligence to hold on to it. Does want to use that advantage at some point, but for now he's doing fine. And G2 steadily building up advantages on the bottom side. Hjarnan's still not going to get hit by that stun.
Slowly chipping away at this tower. Infinity, remember, for them, it's not that important that they find a bunch of early kills or a huge early lead. All they care really about is stopping LeBlanc getting ahead. Now, it's a little unfortunate for them that Perks is sitting at 2-0 and 0. It will give G2 a very solid mid-game, but Infinity are all about the team fights this time around. The Kai'Sa, the Aurelia, two very good team fight champs that are paired up with Taric, who's a really good anti-team fight champ. And they have an Olaf there to act as kind of their pseudo-engage, and they have the Urgot that can set up some nice flanks with the Righteous Glory too. So I really like the 5v5 from Infinity, and I think, again, they play towards their strengths, which are...
No, flash over, need the body block, and they can burn the ulti as well. Wonder on the hunt here. Jankos moving forward as well. The flash forward. Now going to try to land the stun. Uses the ulti to make it to safety. Renu is going to make it out, but meanwhile, Kotopako in the mid lane trying to pick his targets, but Perk is moving a little bit too quickly for him. Now on the retreat, they'll spot him leaving, but Olaf is in the mid lane. Has it available. There's the Herald that he picked up just moments ago. Infinity looking to break the mid lane tower, but still, G2 are the ones who are going to get tower first blood on the bottom side of the map.
We're still seeing, though, once again, why this Aurelia is not a bad matchup into the LeBlanc. You land that stun and you can just glue to her and really out DPS her with your passive. The consistent damage is more than enough, and now Renu has even TP'd into the mid lane, and that's sieging onto this tier 2.
Threatening with a single use of the Flawless Duet, ready to throw out the second one. Just going to move forward onto Perks, doesn't want to risk anything. Relic is on the way in. Perks could potentially be in trouble, but Wadid is on the way in. That's enough damage. Shut down with the Void Seeker. 2 towers blown up in an instant from Infinity. They are on the road to taking us to a game 5.
And look at the goal difference right now. It is dead even. Infinity are making such confident plays, securing a very early Rift Herald into a good outplay from Kotopako onto Perks, has allowed them to get 2 mid lane towers rather, and an Infernal Drake. Infinity coming up huge in game 4.
You want a team fight in the late game, you are darn happy to see that Infernal Drake Vedius, and we look at this, it's starting to look a lot like game 1. This time it's Hjarnan building up that massive lane lead, that CS advantage, but it's Infinity who are coming out ahead in objectives again. Gotta wonder if G2 are nervous. They've been here before. They did not win the game where they won the lanes but weren't able to transition it. And Vedius, you were critical of the draft. Hasn't been a factor yet, but if G2 start to fall behind, it feels like it could be.
I mean, I feel like it kind of has been, because we talked about how when you pick this LeBlanc, knowing who the matchup is, it should be a lane that you dominate. And yes, he managed to find a solo kill, but he also got pushed out of lane twice. And this time round, he died. And so the fact that we talked about the 2v2 strength of Solid Snake and Kotopako, Olaf Aurelia, all they had to do was group mid and push. There's not enough wave clear on the side of G2. And I think it's just Infinity recognizing, you know, we're stronger. Like, only our bot lane is weaker at this point. We have pressure top, we have pressure mid. This really is easy for us to force plays across the map, and they're doing it. And I love this proactivity for Infinity. And I think it's punishing what was a pretty greedy draft from G2.
And now you see Perks put in a side lane just to collect some farmers. Wonder sent to the mid lane. Sadly, for G2, there's a Hex Drinker already in the inventory of Relic. He was already in a magic damage matchup, so Perks may struggle to make a greater impact here.
He's also gone for a Seeker's Arm Guard. That is the worst feeling ever as a LeBlanc, when you get a solo kill in lane and you're forced to build defensively before you even complete your first major item. That is not what you want as an assassin. And that just, you need to give props to Kotopako for, even after dying, being able to generate so much 1v1 pressure.
Kotopako now looking for that hunting for that opportunity. Trying to find a kill potentially on the bottom side of the map, but will settle into the mid lane. Wonder's doing a similar thing, pushing out and looking for somewhere he can realm warp. Ulti not quite available yet, but when it is, may try to make a play into the side lane. Kotopako finds the stun, will commit, now going to use the ultimate as well. Wonder just going to flash over the wall, but Kotopako very much on the hunt, continues to auto. Passive fully stacked, Wonder now running, trying to buy a bit more time. Phase rush is there, Kotopako, what else have you got? Ward over the wall, not going to commit. Now the TP comes in on the top side, Relic going to commit onto Wadid. He's left all on his lonesome. They see the pressure point, they see the weakness, and it is Wadid, and they take him down.
And Infinity find themselves another kill. TP comes in from Relic towards the top side of the map. Yankos ends up dropping as well. I didn't even notice that one. And Infinity doing so well in this early game. G2 are not finding the early game advantages that they want. Towers are continuing to drop across the board. Infinity fighting back hard in game 4.
In game 1, Venius, they had 3 towers. It was fine, but they did not have a gold lead. Here, they're approaching 1.5K at this stage of the game, and you look back at how this happened, you have to wonder who overstepped.
So, Olaf, doing Olaf things. We talked about how he's a great matchup into the Talia, and you can see one of the reasons why. Once he throws that ultimate down, it's extremely easy for him to chase the champion. She doesn't have enough to be able to kite him back. And then he didn't have his flash available, so he was next to fall. Really good awareness there from Infinity to just dive onto the 3 members of G2 and knowing that they would be able to come out on top.
Now G2 just continuing to try to match the tempo, try to take down some of these outer turrets. Looks like they are going to be able to do so. 3 members strong, but a single minion left standing. I would say here to threaten. G2 may have to back off, but the wave is there to back him up, and Perks just constantly threatening Renyu. A lot of damage laid down. The snare is going to connect. Arce now trying to peel the rest of the team off. Waiting on those cooldowns. Renyu has to run the Tauren, maybe the sacrificial lamb, but Solid Snake here to turn it around. Kotopako over the wall, but he's in the middle of 5 members of the team. All but set to die here. Kotopako giving up his life for nothing. G2 with the pick. Realm Wolf now coming up. They want to extend this play. They know this is their advantage. Wonder looking to lock him up. Wonder looking to get something done. Arce may need to commit the ult here. Not going to use it.
So G2, they only picked up 1 kill, burnt a lot of summoner spells from the bot lane of Infinity. And they only find themselves 1 tower up top as well, but Infinity are able to trade that on the other side of the map, so still feeling confident for Infinity. Relic looking good on this Urgot, has now got himself a CS advantage over Wonder. And now Solid Snake is chasing in.
Ooh, using the Predator, forcing the team back. Not going to take the creep wave, though.
Nice guy.
Is Tar going to be able to block it, though? Oh, no, he's coming back. He's coming back for the creep wave. Jungler's out there, do not worry. This man has taken all that farm for the Olaf. And Vedius, I want to check in on the team compositions once again, because the good news for Infinity and for G2 is they each have they have 2 damage types, 80 carries making up one of them, the rest of the map making up the other. But you can see Adaptive Helm's already coming in quick, and for Arise, a Talia, and even to a certain degree a LeBlanc, that item is just going to mitigate so much of what G2 want to do.
Yeah. I mean, magic resistance is great against burst champions, fun fact. And when there are so many burst champs on the side of G2, magic resistance is extremely valuable. I feel like Hyunan's going to have to be the big carry of this game. A lot of the pressure is going to fall onto him. He's doing really well on the Jhin so far, has completed 2 major items. And he had a great Kai'Sa game, or he's had great Kai'Sa games so far this series. Like, we only have to think back to game 3 where both he and Wonder, alongside the support of Wadid, were able to turn a 3v5 in their favor.
Very much the case.
But now he doesn't have Wonder on a big tank frame line. His jungler is behind. So it's going to be that much harder for him to carry, but he's the player I'm looking at to be able to turn this one around for G2.
Infinity grouped up as 5, ready to force a fight. Perks looking for a flank onto the side. They've got a Renyu, Solid Snake. Where's the Tauren ultimate going to go? Kotopako going to find the stun onto Wadid, forcing it now. Immediately trying to use the ult to lock the members. Proactive use of the Tauren ult, stopping any recourse on the opposite side. Relic bringing the cow right into the chest. A little ground beef Get them started before they turn on that Drake.
And what do they do in this 5v5? Like, Infinity can feel so confident just grouping up and forcing it because they have the quintessential teamfight comp, tanks and damage, and enough mobility to follow it up.
Relic hits that disdain. Well played, and now Perkz trying to get a kill. Rest of G2 now pushing in. The CC is there, but the damage just isn't. Infernal and a Mountain for Infinity. Ideal setup on the Drakes. Flash forward, he's gonna pull Wonder back to the team there. Now I want to continue this one. Solid Snake running in, zoning Perkz out. Wonder gonna die as Renu runs in for the kill. Can't quite get it. Wonder running for his life. Realm Warp, the heal, the axe not gonna connect. I can't believe it. Wonder just barely manages to escape.
And another great heal coming out from Hyanan, but Infinity doing what they've done throughout this game and just forcing fights onto G2. They know that they are stronger. They know that G2 have no answers. Their LeBlanc is not strong enough to carry them in these fights. And so every time they see an opportunity, they just charge straight towards the faces of G2.
And look at that goal difference, 20 minutes. Every other game, even the game they won, they were so far behind on average. This game, it's a different story, Vedius.
And Relic with the flash into knockback. This is something we saw him do earlier in this game, and Renu, he just thought he was dead. He thought he had enough damage. He should have secured the kill there. He made a mistake, and then the heal comes through clutch from Hyanan, so the axe doesn't secure the kill. He ends up getting away with his life.
Gotta love the reactions in the stadium. Oh, really everything burned to like try to make that happen. Just did not work out. But you can see Infinity clearly in control of the tempo of this game, and how lost G2 look. All right, we're gonna take a second. All the Aurelia fans out there, that 6 seconds was for you.
He did mess up a little bit.
You run it back. You play it before you go to bed. Aurelia mains, enjoy that. The rest of us probably just frustrated that she's allowed to do that. But Hyanan continues to move in.
So, I'd also like to say that G2 maybe have the Baron as a win condition, but they don't. Their Baron is really slow with a Jhin and 3 mages. They have no one that can tank it either, so they can't even use Baron as a pressure point. Whereas Infinity, they can start Baron whenever they want. And they have Urgot to tank it up, and they have means of starting fights around it too. So, well, like, the more I look at this composition, and I'm like, how can G2 potentially come back into this game? It's all about just trying to find picks. You know, trying to punish people who are out of position from the side of Infinity. But Infinity never have to do that. They can just group up because their teamfight comp is so solid. They just need to keep these sideways pushed out, and then they can just siege. Or sieging maybe not the best setup because their range is pretty short, but they just need to group up and force objectives.
And they are remaining mostly grouped, a single pusher on the side lane for both teams. Perkz versus Cotopaco continuing in the side lane. You know, Perkz' good score kind of balanced out by the massive CS lead of Cotopaco. And Vedius, you know, we checking across the board. You were critical of the draft at the start, and it looks like a lot of the concerns coming true is G2 have not been able to snowball, not been able to set up kind of maybe the 1-3-1 you'd expect from a Ryze LeBlanc. And if they're forced to group, difficult situation.
That's another point, right? I actually haven't talked about the ability to 1-3-1 at all. They're also weaker on side lanes. Like, Perkz can't 1v1 Cotopaco, and Ryze can't 1v1 Relic because he has both. He has 2 magic resist items plus Merc Treads. Like, the best Wonder can do is just wave clear. He'll get the Void Staff 3rd item, and that'll help a lot, but yeah, like, I don't know. I have no answers. I think this is so far Infinity are playing this really cleanly, and as long as they don't make any major mistakes, they should take us to a game 5 based on how the game is progressing. Like, they have a healthy gold lead. They have pressure on both sides. I mean, of course, forcing the Baron is risky, but I think they can just use it to create a fight situation. And as long as they go for a 5v5, in my eyes, they should be able to come out ahead.
Looking across, we're kind of waiting for that bigger point. You talked about needing an objective. Kind of Infinity, they can't siege, but if they send 5 members to a Baron, to a Dragon, G2 either have to give it up or fight for it. If they try to fight, well, we know Infinity has the advantage. Now just waiting for Baron to become a bigger factor. Infinity finally setting up the vision, doing their due diligence with a bit of mid-pressure to clear out vision. When are they going to go for it, though, or do they just want to wait to scale up further?
I think Infinity, if they wanted to, could be a little more proactive. Maybe they were waiting for the Starks to be completed for Cotopaco, and now that he's back on the map, you imagine he'll go up top, push that out, and then they'll try and force something. We'll see. Here we go.
He's going to come out. Kai's going to leap in with the ultimate. Not taking too much damage there. Woodid potentially going to be in trouble, but a lot of cooldowns burned and nothing to show for it. Jarnet's still alive. Relic throwing out the ultimate. Not going to connect either. That is the best G2 could have hoped for. A little bit of an executional fumble there from Infinity, forcing out some flashes, some summoner spells, but burning so much in exchange.
Yeah, exactly that. I feel like that the Infinity engage was a little haphazard there. All the pieces weren't quite in place. But you are right, they were able to get the summoner spells out from Hjarnan, which is a big deal because he doesn't have those escapes, which means that when Infinity dive on top of him, it'll be that much easier to lock him down and find that kill. Again though, Hjarnan farming extremely well, level 14. 293 CS, almost completed his third major item. If anyone is going to find a way back into the game for G2, it will be him, and now G2 looking for a pick.
Rennie's going to give him the respect, though, with that flash. And one thing I think we always have to remember is that Perkz has had his back against the wall before. We look back on some of those moments where G2 found themselves in a Game 5, Splice, quarterfinals. Last year, Perkz in a final game, won Cassioel, deciding it, turning it when the pressure was on. And really, G2 are hoping for a performance like that to stop Infinity from taking it to a Game 5. One of those clutch moments from one of the most veteran players on the team.
So Dragon has now respawned. And Infinity, I think this is a really good objective for them to play around. You'll notice that they've dropped a couple wards around the Baron as well, so that they can still see what's going on in this area of the map. But the Ocean Drake is a really good objective to pick up, especially when you already have the Infernal and Mountain. And you should be able to clear it out relatively quickly. So I think it's just, if nothing else, you'll get G2 to come and challenge you for it, which I imagine they won't.
I mean, we talked about it, right? We can see how much better Infinity should be functioning in a team fight. G2 are probably painfully aware of it as well. You saw them running in that last play, knowing that they were on the back foot. Vedius, as predicted, G2 not going to come and contest it, just giving that one away.
It's just the setup is really good for Infinity. I really like that they invested the wards into Baron first. That's a really crucial step, because if they just rushed Drake, then you would have left Baron exposed, it would have been in fog of war, and then you have to face check Baron against G2, which is always dangerous face checking. So by doing this, what they do is G2 then has to clear all the vision out, Infinity have full knowledge of where they are, and they secure the Drake without actually losing the Baron itself. So now they can just reset. Infinity can just clear out all these waves, push them out, drop a couple vision, spend the gold that they've picked up, and then look to set up the Baron relatively soon. I think they're waiting right now for Renu to finish his third item. Or maybe they just want to show G2, because they know they outscaled. So perhaps they don't feel the need to force anything right now.
Yeah, waiting patiently. Get those item spikes, as you mentioned. We'll see if it's a Banshees or an Hourglass that'll come in from Renu on the back of that Fiendish Codex. Just now clearing out the jungle. Picking up the red buff and ready for a fight to come. Once again, the battle of vision around Baron. We saw it last game. We're going to see it again this time around. Perkz procking a bit of aggro just to both check the pit and to give Relic a little bit of pain to deal with. Vedius, last game, we saw just a brilliant Baron play from Infinity, and it was an overstep that cost them the game. But when they have this kind of lead, when they're continuing to build up this team fight advantage through their composition, it feels like it's going to be hard for G2 to get that same kind of miracle turnaround without the Urgot on their side.
Cha. You are correct.
All right.
I feel like this is the kind of narrative we've been setting up all game long, right? Which is very much G2 needs to get another game lead. They had a pushing bot, and if they had translated Perkz solo kill into something more, like perhaps permagang from Kotopaco or just shutting him out of the game, then they could have used the advantage bot and mid in order to turn it into a snowball. In that situation, I could have seen a way in which G2 won, but they made a couple of fumbles, Infinity found a couple of favorable fights, and then the game slowed down rapidly, and now they've just been scaling, ramping up. And these third items being worked on, 3 items have in fact been finished for Relic.
Ghost now burned. Immediately goes in onto Perkz, forces Perkz out of the fight. The Tark ulti comes out, but they're going to burn him down before he gets a chance. Perkz goes back and immediately in, looking for the opportunity. Pulled back in the middle of the team, though that is the fear. Kotopaco now on the hunt for Wonder, wants to bring it back. The stuns are connecting. Yankus is getting cut through, but Hjarnan remains untouched. The 80 carry gone means Hjarnan may be able to turn this. The double, though, dropping in the meantime. Infinity desperate to turn this one back, but they've already lost the fight. The 80 carry is up. The curtains are here, and he's looking to call him right down onto the front line of Infinity. Force shot going to connect. has 2 more in the barrel, wants to take down. Relic wants to get this kill back, but it's just not going to happen. Hjarnan with a beautiful turnaround. Wonder they need to take this. Kotopaku, I don't know if he can outplay this one. The snare, the point and click, he takes him down. That's the double for Wonder. A beautiful turn for G2.
And G2 actually win the team fight. It all comes off the back of Jankos landing that clutch spell onto Renu and finding a very early kill onto the Infinity AD carry. So much of the damage disappeared while Hjarnan was left untouched. So keep your eyes on Renu throughout this entire fight. He dives onto Perks, gets stunned up by Wadid, into the knockback, into the Perks execute. Beautifully done by G2, and starting the fight off like this is the best case scenario because Perks, he's done his job. The AD carry is dead. Now Hjarnan can come into his own, combined with Wonder, doing exactly what they did last time. Their consistent damage output between the two of them was monumental in being able to win out on this fight. The positioning from Hjarnan was great. And Kotopaku, he does his best. You know, he wasn't expecting the flash in from Relic. If Relic had been a little more patient, maybe together they would have been able to win out on this fight, but it wasn't enough. G2 win the fight, and they're keeping themselves alive in this game.
And Betty, as you look back on it, MR is the name of the game for that Urgot on the top side. When Jin is the one left
Look at that
alive in a
damage.
team fight, he's gonna rip through the team and rise as well. So much sustained damage between these two champions. They burn everything for Perks. Perks is behind, man.
Hjarnan had to be the carry for this team in these late game fights, and he's doing it. But again, no, you've got to credit Wonder too. He was no slouch in that fight, matching the Jin damage as well. G2, even though I'm not a fan of their comp, they have showcased that in the right hands, you can pull off the unbelievable. But here we go, Infinity starting off the Baron. Teleport is available for Wonder and the top laner.
Jankos is here, can throw a lot of damage down on the pit. 5k getting lower. Solid Snake wants to take this one down. Jankos is nowhere in the nearby area. Tark ulti going to be used. They need to make it out of the pit as quickly as humanly possible. Both top laners TPing in now. Relic in the middle. Perk's trying to find his way into the back line, but he takes so much damage back. He chases a beautiful Aurelia ult. Dash through, pulled back. There's the fear. There's the reset. Oh my god! They're cutting through G2. Jankos can't even find a way out. Infinity destroy G2.
And this is what we were expecting from Infinity. They just kick the Baron off, they melt through it before G2 can react, and instantly turn it into a huge team fight in their favor. Renu did not get one shot this time around. Perks was the one who got chunked out. Hjarnan couldn't escape. And now it is Infinity with the Baron and the base of G2 in their eye.
Pushing in, they commit the TP from the AD carry to keep it going. They want to keep the tempo up. They want to catch Perks out, and they want to end it here. I don't think they have enough time on this one, but they will at least break the inhibitor line. Will they commit for the following fight? They don't have major cooldowns. Tarek ulti slowly but surely on the way as he gets those autos in. Not going to find anything else here, but big shift in this game. Perks trying to hunt, trying to find an isolated member. Not going to happen yet, and 5k gold lead, Vedius.
Great stuff for Infinity. This is the kind of play that we were talking a lot about and wondering when it was going to happen. After they lost the fight, they just decided, let's go. They took it down so quickly before G2 even had an opportunity to react. So look at Perks. He tries to dive into the backline, barely does any damage, gets chunked out. The Alistar melts, and then the fear that he generates is enough to allow Infinity to get the collapse down onto the two remaining members. Now, G2 are able to get to the Infernal Drink
first.
first.
Wants to steal it, not going to be able to get it. Now he's locked himself in the pit in a bit of a tough spot here, but Renu is pushing in, can't afford to go too far. Ulti's not going to connect from the Urgot, but they're chasing him down anyway. Wadid going to give up his life here in the exchange. G2 on the back foot. Predator now burned. Losing that member, though, is going to be tough. G2 can no longer find the counter engage up against Infinity. It would take a miracle, so pressure's going to continue. They may be able to break another inhibitor here. G2 putting themselves in a tough position. Felt like they had to take that Infernal.
I mean, they got it, but they lost their bot lane, and now they're going to lose the inhibitor as well. The base is exposed. Infinity on track to taking us to a game 5. The Nexus is in their eyes.
So many people would have chalked up game 1 to a slip-up, Vedius. A small mistake. This game as well, though. Infinity proving they can go toe-to-toe with G2. Perks looking to change everyone's mind here, though. Not going to be able to find an aggressive play. Infinity backing off. Going to look for the same slow and steady closeout that G2 gave them in the previous match.
I mean, you can't take anything away from Infinity, right? Like, sure, I threw a lot of criticism towards G2 and the way in which they drafted and the way in which they're playing, but Infinity, they had very clear win conditions. the moment they got to the Inesplex they were comfortable with, they went straight to the Baron, they pulled off a beautiful team fight, and now they're closing this game out very cleanly. Kodapako has come up huge in this game and has really outperformed Perks. They are on track to take us to a game 5 as G2 look for that last-ditch effort team fight.
Perks, that was definitely a misclick. He did not want to go back into the middle of that team. Now comes the Taric ultimate. Urgot going forward. A little more damage. Perks shut down onto Kodapako. Wonder now wants to turn it. This is the second time Infinity even tried to fight under the tower. And it is the second time G2 will look to rout them for their mistakes. Infinity backing off. Relic going to go down here. The GA procced. No other options as Perks just continues the hunt. Taken out in the end. Not a single member dropping on the side of G2. Tower living as well. Perks wants to continue the push. The super minions are there on the top side. Slowly working their way through.
Okay, so I cast the Kirsten there. Just when I praised them, they get a bad team fight. Oh,
Saw a snake.
What are you
He's
doing?
gonna give his life here, but Hjarnan's already back. Predator's there. Perks just gonna take his time with this one. Is he fast enough? Relmore coming in. He may have killed Renyu as well. He's just gonna get knocked up and taken out. G2 kill everybody.
Oh, but they do end up losing both towers. Hjarnan's wave clear is not enough, so Infinity, they lose a number of members, but G2 can't get anything off the back of this, so the next game still goes in favor of Infinity. Awful team fight on the side of Infinity. They tried to dive G2. They still need to show respect the amount of damage output that this composition has. And while it could have ended much worse for Infinity, they end up making the most of it. The minions doing some serious work in the base. Let's have a look back at how this one kicks off. So it ends up being Perks going in. This was a big misplay from him. Jumping back in, he does have the Zhonyas. The Taric ultimate comes out very early on, so they use this to try and die, but Kodapako, he doesn't get the Taric ultimate. So he ends up dying extremely quickly. Then Renyu, the only person he can hit is Wadid, and he's forced out of the fight right off the back of that.
And Vedius, you can watch the rest of that play, you can see all the people die, and this is the second time this series that Infinity had randomly tried to dive a tower. And
yes,
they missed the Taric ult on the Aurelia. The Aurelia missed her own ult, and then they continued, and it just feels like Infinity have the win in their hands in that instant, and they just have to chill out. But when they say go, they go, man. There is no other option.
I mean, that's the thing. These guys are confident players, and you could see if Kodapako had the Taric ultimate, maybe it's a different kind of fight. But he goes a little bit too early, and as you already said, they didn't have to force it. They could have been so patient. They just had to wait for the super minions in the other lanes to push through, and instead, they go for the dive, but still, they are the ones with the overwhelming advantage. They're looking for one more fight to end the game. The Nexus is exposed, and G2 are pushed to the very brink of going to a game 5.
Infinity can already hear the Silver Scrapes playing in their head, and G2 are just praying it's not true. Perks laying down what poke he can. Taking a lot back in exchange. Hjarnan not fearless. That is a fast Jin running in and out of the back line. Disarmed now, though the Aurelia ulti not going to land to much effect. I was burning the Ghost as well. G2 weaving in and out of that fight, not giving Infinity the option to go in.
The inhibitor has respawned in the top lane. Now G2 only have to wave clear mid. The Baron is spawning in 45 seconds. If G2 can steal this one away, maybe they can turn this one around. The goal is still relatively close. The kill score is the same. And Hjarnan has been doing work in these late game team fights, but based on how the last Baron went, if G2 will clump up in that small choke point, Infinity will just come out on top in the fights.
Oh, Vedius, there's so much tension here. 38 minutes into the game. You said it, 13-13. It's an unlucky number, but for who wins out on the next fight? Perks continuing to harass. Poking down the opposite.
Those crits from Hjarnan.
Continues to poke, continues to hit. Hjarnan the one doing the damage, Perks is the one threatening. Infinity now splitting up. Kodapako looking for the flank, but he's been spotted on the side. Perks fearless. One mistake here could take him out, but now leaping forward, leaping into Hjarnan. Hjarnan now could be in trouble. The Taric ultimate coming out. Kodapako on the backside. Unstoppable. They burned so much of the Taric ulti on nothing. G2 have peeled back beautifully and have not gotten anything. And Hjarnan, here come the curtains. Jankos ready to follow up if they can find anything greater. Priority in the mid lane goes to G2, but that is all in the fight.
So this time around, Infinity don't find the initiation that they want. This allows G2 to disengage, wave clear, and actually have control over the Baron. Perks has even gone back to base, gotten his health back, maybe even spent some gold that he should have picked up. And What G2 need to do now is send Wonder to bot to try and clear out that wave before it gets too big, because Infinity, they know they have that wave and they're going to pressure with this Baron, but it's in complete darkness right now.
Relic needs to get out of here, though. If he goes down, it's going to be disastrous. The team fight, the follow-up from G2 could be everything. But the Baron's going to go down. They get it. They need to make their way out now. They cannot afford to die here. Yanko's on the side, though, not going to let it happen. Kodopako running with D trying to keep the fight going. Wonder on the backside. Everything turning against them. G2 firing back, finding their way back into the game on the back of this fight. Now cleaning up is the double drop for Wonder. Perks on the side, baiting Solid Snake. Another kill going over in the favor of Yarnan. Everything falls apart for G2, and Perks just playing with his food, just buying time as they turn it back.
And when all was lost, when the Nexus was exposed for G2, they somehow find the miraculous fight. And now, with those death timers, G2 could potentially end the game.
He's going for the 1v1 against the jungler. Solid Snake trying, he's trying to get something back. He is going to be allowed to retreat, but he's just hitting a ward. He doesn't have the time.
No way are they doing this.
There's no way. They can just end it here. 18 seconds, 20 seconds, counting down. This is G2's timer to victory. This is their moment. Everything stood against them in this game, from the draft to the execution, but in the final moments, G2 make it count.
Unbelievable. Infinity. They had so much control over that game. The Nexus was exposed. They took one too many bad team fights. And G2 end up coming up clutch. You have to give props to that man on your screen. We said he had to carry. We said this guy has been playing extremely well this game. He has to be able to turn out these late game fights, and he was so pivotal. The amount of damage he was throwing out, his positioning, all came together to allow G2 to find the fourth game, and they will lock in a spot in the group stages at Worlds.
Perks one step closer to his quest to take down Liquid, as it was in the interview he did most recently. Finally making it to the next stage, the next group stage. We'll see where he gets drawn shortly, but Infinity, that is a tough loss. They went toe-to-toe with one of Europe's best, and they almost forced it to a Game 5.
So close. They did everything. They did so many things right in Game 4. They just took a couple bad fights. They were too over. Like, being over ego was their issue. And like, when was it? They overcommitted in a mid lane fight in like Game 2 or Game 3. They did it again.